You're listening to episode 109 of Lifestyle Locker Radio with Stephanie Dodier.
Emotional eating is natural. If we go back to that baby latching on the breast of mom, in part the baby's looking for that emotional comfort and security of mom, the experience of engaging with food with human connection emotionally is very positive most of the time.
Hi, I'm Dr. Josh Hant, and welcome to Lifestyle Locker Radio, where we help you create an awesome life and lifestyle. From nutrition to fitness, mindfulness to peak performance, and relationships to money mindset, we bring you on an amazing journey to help you unleash your human potential. So here's a little bit about our guest today, Stephanie Dodier. She's a nutritionist, an emotional eating expert, and the founder of Beyond the Food Academy and host of the Beyond the Food Show. Stephanie's integrative and comprehensive approach helps women change eating habits and free themselves from diets and food obsession without willpower. The Going Beyond the Food is the revolutionary movement that is geared towards changing the way women relate to food and their body. It's about ditching the diet mindset, transforming relationships to food and their body to feel good for good right now. Stephanie has been there too. She was inspired to do this work, and that's how she started the Going Beyond the Food movement. Her health journey began 7 years ago while working as a senior executive in a Fortune 500 corporation. After collapsing on stage, she was diagnosed with multiple chronic conditions, and she went on to search to find the solutions. She found her passion and redirected her natural leadership ability to inspire women to transform their relationship to food and body and ultimately themselves. Stephanie is passionate about sharing her journey with other women while educating and empowering them to reconnect with their own internal nutritionist. Stephanie believes that empowerment starts with education, and this is how Going Beyond the Food Project was born 2 years ago. Women can take the next steps in their journey via the Going Beyond the Food Academy and online platform. So without further ado, here's our guest today, Stephanie. Okay, everyone, in the locker room today, we've got Stephanie. I think you're going to absolutely love her, but she loves talking about one of my favorite topics, and it's called food. So welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you for having me. I have such a different stance on food, so I can't wait for people to hear me talk about food.
Good. And if you're wondering where her accent is from, I love interviewing people with accents from all over the world, so I think this is really cool. So if you can't guess, where are you from? French
Canadian, so Quebec.
Quebec, all right. Excited to have you. Very excited to have you. So let's hear a little bit of your story since, you talk about going beyond food, right? Mm-hmm. Or beyond the food. So tell us your story. What got you involved into what you're doing today?
Absolutely. So 36 years old, I was at the top of my corporate career, and I collapsed on stage, giving a speech to my employees. I collapsed, ended up in the hospital, thought to have a heart attack. Wow. At that point, I was nearly 300 pounds and never gone to the doctor because I was a tough girl, just pushing through pain, and ended up in the hospital with severe panic attack and diagnosed subsequently with a bunch of chronic condition, pre-diabetic, high cholesterol, inflammation, depression, anxiety, name it, I had it, and come with that a bunch of medication, prescription. And so I left the office of the doctor that day, and I was not in the health field at all, but I had this intuition message that came down to me that said not to take the medication, because if I started there at 36, it would just get worse and worse. So I still remember crumbling that piece of paper, throwing it in the garbage outside the doctor's office and say, well, what the hell happens. Let's figure out another way out of this. And that brought me to the world of natural health and healing myself naturally. Started seeing naturopathic doctor. I had a health coach, and then came the food. So food came into my life as a way to heal myself and also to lose weight. And something happened with me and food that wasn't expected. I lost weight very quickly. I went down to a weight I'd never been down before, but I started to obsess about food. And in some way, I was gaining my health back. So it was a demonstration that it was working, but it engaged a part of my brain, the type A, super
Yeah.
focus, high achiever. And then I became overly obsessed with food quality. So paleo came into my life. And then I left my career in the corporate world, went back to school, became a holistic nutritionist, opened a clinic, and then went further into the grass-fed, pasture-raised, no dairy, no, 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 to the point where I ended up 5 years ago in the keto world, which back then nobody talked about it. But I was like, I was never good enough with my food,
Mm.
and I wasn't able to keep my weight at the lowest part that I was. I was always gaining weight, and I thought there's something I'm doing wrong. So I kept focusing on food, and I even wrote a book on keto to tell you how obsessed I was with it, intermittent fasting. Then I started binging. And then I binge on all healthy food, like keto breads and all that stuff, but it was about the restriction. So everything that was forbidden, I found a way of doing it healthy, and I binge and I overate on it. And then that sent me down to the spiral of issue with food and body image and not being satisfied ever. And that's how I realized that the solution was beyond the food. It was not just the food, but it was how I engage with food and what I meant for me in my life. For me, it was linked around worth, and that became a whole spiral down. So I stopped practicing in clinic and started to heal myself, and I came to realize that there was a whole segment of population like me, and we needed to go beyond the food to heal ourselves. So that's my work right now, is helping people that have that emotional relationship to food and get out of that vicious circle. So they do have to engage with food, but from a health instead of a emotional perspective.
Yeah, I that's crazy. I just want to clarify. This is it's just interesting to me. So you said as you were going down the spiral, with going to like a keto style diet, and you were binging. You were actually binging on. When you said foods you shouldn't have, you weren't binging on, let's say, like actual bread. You were binging on the keto version of bread, or the keto version
Yes,
of a dessert, or the keto version of whatever it may have been,
absolutely. Because I
just to fill
was
the void.
exactly because I was so obsessed with quality, I was not going to go binge on like chips, right?
Yeah.
So I satisfied that need of being perfect in binging on those food, but the same effect happened when I was gaining weight, getting digestive issue, like not good.
Okay, so this is actually I want to dive more into your topic, but this bring up just a conversation that I think is relevant to most people, because I see this with, I don't necessarily want to call them fad diets, but people changing their food choices, from paleo to keto to gluten free to whatever, that it's like, oh, I'm going to be keto, or I'm going to be paleo, but I'm going to make everything that wouldn't be found like in a Paleolithic diet to fit the model that I live in.
Hmm.
Like I want to make cake. What's paleo?
Yes.
It's paleo cake, right?
I know, with erythritol as a sweetener, right?
Yeah, like, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, I see this all over the place, and I'm subject to this as well. Like you're talking to me as well. Like the whole audience, all of us. But I find that it's easy to, like you saying, the relationship with food is really the root, right? What people are connecting with, and it's like, wow, wait, hold on, paleo. I shouldn't be eating like paleo Pop-Tarts. They're like,
Hmm.
what? Like this type of thing. So this is interesting, and I think this conversation is going to have some really neat turns for people. So in your journey, as you started to go through this journey, and now you're helping people with this journey, what was like was that the time? Was there a time or a defining moment that made you say, like, holy crap, I have to make a shift now, otherwise that's it, I'm gonna end up where I don't want to be?
Absolutely. It was at the peak of my keto, intermittent fasting, ketosis, measuring portion of my life. And I remember wanting to get to a level of ketosis, like 5.0 or above ketones. And I had made those fudge with a lot of butter and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of cacao powder and erythritol. And I binge on it. And then I was sick for 2 days, like diarrhea, vomiting. Like I
Mm-hmm.
had probably ate an entire 1 pound of butter in one afternoon and evening. And that I still see that moment in my life where like
Yeah.
I've got a problem. And
Yeah.
it's not just ketone and ketosis. Like this is, I don't want to say mental health because that scares a lot of people, but it was a serious way that I engaged with food that wasn't meant to be in the first
Yeah.
place. So that was the moment that sent me down to this path of quote spirituality and understanding why do I engage with food in that way? Like what void am I filling with that, or what am I trying to achieve? Because clearly it's not about ketones or ketosis. It's about I'm seeking something else. And I did
Okay.
that journey from that moment.
Yeah. So with people that, that some people may have a very similar type of experience, but what are other signs that you maybe with the clients you've worked with in the past, like what do you see? Because I'm sure it's just not with, listen, I ate, ketogenic bread or chocolate or whatever it is. It's got to be such a huge variety, but what are some of the popular ones that may connect with some of the audience?
So when you're eating past fullness regularly, so that's one of the big things. So, and I describe it. I have a quiz on my website that we can send people to. It's 10 questions that we use as an assessment. But one of the big thing is eating past fullness with an emotion around it. So stress, eating to the point where you feel stuff or you feel pain, eating because you're lonely at night, right? You're engaging with food with some type of emotion and it makes you feel worse physically, emotionally, or mentally. The other piece is there's a lot of emotion around not, quote, being perfect, shame, failure. Like a normal eater will, let's say they're paleo, they'll have a piece of cheese and that's just having a piece of cheese and then they move on. With the person that engaged with food from that place, it's like, oh my God, I had a piece of cheese. Everything is falling apart. I didn't follow my diet. I'm not worthy. I fell again. And then they go on to this place of spiraling down in shame issue, right? So these are the two big signs. Is again, a lot of emotion attached to eating.
Okay. And it's interesting. I just had a conversation with another expert like yourself earlier today. And what did I say? I said that I'm an endurance athlete. Just to give you an overview of what I'm going to say here. So I'll be very, very, very like strict with my food for a very specific amount of time where I won't cheat. But then sometimes I'll start to modify my diet as I get closer to an event. So I have more certain like fats or certain carbohydrates. But then like post event, I'll go and I'll be like, I need this. There's a place I think it's called Levain or Levain. It's a cookie place in New York City. They're very famous. And each cookie's like 700 calories of like, probably almost all of it is sugar, right? It is probably like the most like.
And
amazing,
a lot of fats.
And like a stick of butter inside one.
Yeah.
And I love having one of those. If I do a crazy event, I'll like having that at the finish line. And a lot of times I'll share it with people, but like I love it. And, then I'll be like, son of a, why did I, and I was like, you have eater's remorse. She was just enjoy it while you've got it, type of thing.
So you said a key word there, cheat.
Yeah.
So you have to remember that our relationship to food is not black or white, good or bad. It's a spectrum, right? So you've got eating disorder on the one end of the spectrum, diagnose, treatment, and then you've got people who are just normal, don't care. And then you've got the rest of us swinging in the middle.
Yeah.
But when you adopt this cheating mindset, it's like we're swinging towards like there's something going on there. So when you have that cookie, here's my question to you. Does it mean anything about your worth into this world?
No, I just, it's not something I would normally jump into. Okay.
So it's not, to me, it's not something that you have to be concerned about from one question. Again, I would have to assess further, but there's no worth attached to it. Worth is the number one sign that we've got crookedness around the way we engage with food.
Yeah. I mean, if I was, my engagement with sugar would be that, because for me, I know better. Like, and that's why I would get myself, I'd get over it like in 2 seconds, but my wife's like, really? Just enjoy it when you're done. Finish it and just be done and don't whine. You had a good time.
But you move on quickly, right?
Exactly. But I can see where, where if I dwelled on this problem for, like, oh God, like days or whatever it may have been. And now my whole lifestyle is shifting because I'm like, what do I need to do?
Bingo, because what happened, and you're touched exactly to where the issue began when it's around your worth, is that 6 hours post cookie, 3 days post cookie, in your brain, you're still, oh my God, what did I do? I'm a failure. I can't be consistent. And then these emotions fill you up, and those are called like shame emotion, and they drive more eating behavior.
Okay.
Right? They drive, I need to numb the shame that I feel, so let me have a pizza or a cookie or whatever your thing is, and then I feel failure again and shame again, and then I'm engaging into more.
Keep
so this
going.
It's just, the spiral is endless, and that's what we call the diet cycle. In some way, people that are caught in dieting and lose weight, they're into that cycle for years.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it was 27 years of it.
Yeah. So interesting. So we know emotion has a huge play and we're going to get down. I'm sure we're going to go deeper.
Yeah.
But do you see, or not, but, and do you see that with children, like, does that connection start at like a very early age to the emotion behind food? It's like, oh, Stephanie, you did so good in school. Here's a cookie, or here's a pie, or here's ice cream, or here's this. Like, I remember winning a baseball game, playing as a kid, and every time we won a baseball game, where did we go?
Dairy Queen for me.
We went to Ben and Jerry's, right? Yeah. Like, so what is that? Like, how is that helping? I mean, it's just, there's something to think about this.
Oh no, it triggers it.
Yeah.
So let's start with the fact that when we're born, we have what I call an internal nutritionist inside of us. We're born with this gift to engage with food from a place of nutrition and a little bit of emotion, right? You can just think of a baby breastfeeding, right? Sometimes they just want to get close to mom and get the warmth and the love of mom, right? So there's always a little bit of emotion around eating, and baby do that very normally. But think of a baby in which we feed by bottle, and we have a mission of making them drink the entire bottle instead of natural breastfeeding, into which they latch on, they latch off, and they drink as much as they need. So often it starts as young as that, by pushing food down our baby. Yeah. And then if you're talking about neuroscience and conscious mind and subconscious mind, a child's subconscious mind is built up to the age of 9, 10, 11, depending who you're studying. And the parent's relationship to food embed how the child will become conscious about their own relationship to food. So what I see very often, which is why I predominantly work with women, is that mom had a diet mindset, body shaming, emotional eating, and without mom wanting to do it, that's what she taught to the little girl.
Yeah, the mirroring effect of what,
Right? So now this girl is 30, 40 years old and has been in the cycle of dieting, thinking something's wrong with her. Well, in fact, it was taught to her very young. Like for me, I have memory of my mom at 8 doing the cabbage soup diet.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right? And being ashamed of her thighs and how big they were in cellulite. And that's how I learned to engage with my body. And that's how I learned to engage with food. So at 14, I was on my first diet and I was at Weight Watcher. But to me, that was normal because that's how I was raised. That was my environment. So yes, every child is born with a quote, healthy relationship to food, but based on their environment, then they develop certain tendency. Now, in your case, you went after the baseball game once in a while. Now, was it reinforced in other ways is the question, right?
Yeah, like winning, I do something good, do we get food? Do something good, get food. Do something good, get food.
You go get cookies after your Ironman or whatever you do, right?
Yeah, exactly. I do. See, there you go. Yeah.
So you've got your connection. It's subconsciously. Because the truth is, 90% of our food behavior is subconscious. So that'll bring me to another segment of the conversation, is the whole, am I really a lack of willpower as to why I can control my diet? When you understand neuroscience and you know where the food decisions are made, willpower has nothing to do with this. Because you will engage, you will have thoughts about food and desire to eat because it's subconsciously programmed into you to deal with certain emotional situation with how the food or engage with food with a cookie after a race.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of programmed until somebody shine lights on it and say, oh, look at what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure go forward, you'll have a different perspective just because I shine the light on it.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Of course.
That doesn't mean you're not going to do it.
Yeah. Thank
Just
God
means that
it's
you'll
not
have a
something I do
different
regularly.
experience.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. But that's important. I'm glad we're able to use myself as this, because if I'm doing something like this, there are a lot of people doing stuff like this, right?
Absolutely. Well, you got to think of the whole model of addiction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And food is just one way we engage with pain and emotion and even to a certain degree trauma, right?
Mm-hmm.
I studied a lot of Gabor Mate. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
I don't know the name, no.
He's a Canadian doctor who has dealt with a lot of heroin addicts and came out with this proposition that a vast majority of addicts have had trauma earlier in life. We're talking hardcore drugs addict. Mm-hmm. And I see the same thing when it comes to food. The trauma may not be violence. It may just be having a mom that was a diet mindset person and taught that little girl at 8 years old to be on a diet or to restrict calories or to shame her body. That to the nervous system is trauma, and it teaches you to engage with painful information with food. So I don't know where I was going with that, but that was important to say.
No, I mean, everything's really now about the relationships with food, and going down that road. Do you find, I mentioned we talked about kids before, and the mirroring and the and my cookie, experience possibly even coming from that, way back when 30 years ago playing baseball experience, right?
Yes.
So are there, I mean, I know we're going to talk about this, maybe I want to say the negative side, but this is the side that can become very detrimental, right?
Yes.
To someone's health long term. Are there the opposite version? Are there those type of mirroring or those type of emotions that are brought together with like great relationships or great eating?
Absolutely. So one of the things I want to make clear to everyone listening, emotional eating is natural. If we go back to that baby latching on the breast of mom, in part the baby's looking for that emotional comfort and security of mom, the experience of engaging with food with human connection emotionally is very positive most of the time. Think about holiday dinners, Thanksgiving we just went through, right?
Yeah.
It's all about sitting around food with family, loved one, having a good experience and not being focused on the restriction or whatever you can and cannot eat, but simply making the relationship more important. And if we go back to our tribal years or the evolution of human, food has always been about connecting with the tribe. Right? That was the moment where the tribe came in together and we connected humanly together, and then we carried on with our activities. So if it's mingled around connection and making connection most important, then the emotional eating is very positive.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. And I've had this conversation with my father. He was on a board of university, and they'll go down and have these dinners, and I've been down to the university and hung around this stuff. And I normally, I like food. I'm not like a foodie, if you will. I like food. But I'll go and it's okay. I can get a salad with some fish or chicken or whatever it is, and I'm a very happy person. Like that's perfect for me. Like vegetables, whatever. And I go to these dinners and it's like extravagant. It's all I'm like, oh my God, like it just drives me nuts. Maybe that's I don't know if that's from being in childhood also, but I like the community portion, but when a dinner takes for me 3 hours, it drives me insane.
You're like me, and I think if I want to export my thought there in saying, and part of it is people trying to show their ego, if you go to the spiritual realm, through food and making food super complicated or super expensive to show themselves. So I'd likely be like you, thinking that's way too much, right?
Yeah, it's like, really? If we went out to like a nice, I don't even like a cafe and had like a good salad or something, I'd be like, this is awesome. This is so good. Nice environment, fun. I could be with my wife or whatever. I'm happy. But I think sometimes even to her, it's like, like that the experience behind it is obviously fun as well. So having to do something like that periodically, but for me, it's just like, oh my God, like I don't have that relationship with food.
Me neither.
That I need to do that, right, on a regular basis. And if you're listening, listen, if we're going to go out and have food, we can go wherever you want, right? Just
Yeah,
kidding.
it's no judgment.
No judgment. But, well, that's crazy. So in your work, you work mostly with women.
Yes.
Do you only women?
Well, my program are designed with women in mind because what I found through getting this message to the world is there's no strong engagement from a male perspective because it's so emotionally focused.
Okay.
And by no means I want to put judgment out there. It's just my reality. When I put a podcast out there, when I put a blog or get comment from people, it's 99.9% women.
That's who's engaging.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now I have a colleague who helps men with binge eating, and he finds the same way. When he puts his message out to the world from a male perspective, he has no engagement for women.
Okay, fair enough.
Because the story, the relationship, I guess, is not the same.
Yep.
But the principle applies to both gender.
Yeah, and that's pretty interesting. And my world is, outside of podcasting as a chiropractor, what I tend to find is that women in general, overall, have a much deeper connection to their health and longevity than men do. And if it's a family, it's, I would say 9 times out of 10, because we take care of a lot of families, is mom comes in, or the kids come in first. However, I'm not sure how it works. The kids will come in first, or mom. And then it's like, I'm making an appointment for my husband. I'm going to do the paperwork for him. Just make sure he stays.
Just process him.
Exactly. Just got to, and it's interesting. But you say you have a colleague that does specifically with men. I guess that's pretty niche specific. But I would beg to differ that he probably also has a ton of women that probably come across his program, and then when they see it's men, they're like, all right, I'll find you instead. Right. That's
what tends to happen. But what I want to say to the man, that applies as much to you. And if you need some help, by all means, connect with me. Yeah. But typically it's more women that are oriented towards going there because it requires work, right? It requires what we call the work of working on like your past stuff and your current stuff. And so so women have an easier time engaging with that.
Okay. So you mentioned you were talking about doing the work, right? So what is working? If I say, listen, I need Stephanie, we need to work together. Yeah. I'm not totally sure yet why, but what does it look like? What is just give us like that 50,000 foot view.
Absolutely. So when women experience emotional eating, out of control food, emotional eating, the experience may be, like I said, binging, compulsive eating, sugar addiction. And then with that combined, they cannot achieve their weight goal. That's when they raise the flag and say, I need help.
Okay.
And the intention when they first engage with us is to lose weight. The ultimate goal is, I'm going to be happy when I lose weight and my body looks, quote, normal. And because of this eating problem, I cannot achieve my goal. So that's typically when the flag is raised. And then we engage with them to say, it's not what you eat. It's not how you eat, like the time window and all of that. It's why do you engage with food? Like what drive this urge to eat? And let's dive into that and understand your trigger. So the first phase is understanding why you eat. Is it emotional? Is it physical? What triggers you? Which emotion? Which people? Which situation? Process of self-discovery. That's what it is, right? Understanding why you engage with food. And then from there is re-engaging with the normal internal nutritionist to say, this is how you feel when you're about to get full, stop eating. And this is what it feels to be hungry when you have no boundaries of dieting. This is when you need to eat. So re-engaging with eating when hungry and stopping with food. So re-engaging with those signals that we've buried because of dieting. Then a big component, and that may be why most women engage with me more than men, is body image.
Okay.
We must go there
to
heal our relationship to food.
Yeah.
The reality is 91% of women don't like their body. In today's society, that's a stat from 2016 in first world country. They don't like their body and they resort to dieting to modify their body and hope to be happy.
That's crazy, right?
but that's the reality we live in.
Yeah,
So
it is.
body acceptance has a huge part to play in healing that relationship to food and healing that relationship to yourself and re-engaging with the natural cues of hunger and fullness. So these are the three places we go. Why? The natural hunger and satisfaction, and then body image. And then that rolls into re-engaging with food from a place of what I call conscious eating. So a blend of mindful and intuitive eating.
And creating happiness.
Absolutely. Being happy right now, unconditionally, like all of you listening, you don't have to lose 10 pounds, 50 pounds, or 100 pounds. That was my biggest learning. You are allowed to be happy no matter what place you are physically in your body. There's no condition to happiness.
Yeah. And what do you think is the biggest, you said that was it 91%, right? Was the
91%,
amount?
Yeah.
What do you think is the major cause of that?
Society.
Yeah.
How society currently, for the last probably 75 years. So first of all, understand that dieting got created in the 1890s and really got popularized in the late 40s, 50s at the same time of the whole food industry, like combination of both exploded. And then that led to diet culture, which is a whole political phenomenon in itself. But at the end of the day, the weight loss industry is a $66 billion industry. And part of their success is due to us feeling ashamed of our body. If we felt okay with our body, we wouldn't engage into dieting.
Yeah, that's so funny. You said like in the 40s with this explosion. I think it was the explosion of crappy food and
Yes.
right, and marketing to little people.
Absolutely. So it's called diet culture in the underground movement, but it's combined with this whole food quality issue and obesity and the whole gamut all comes together.
Yeah. Wow. So with mindset being, in that connection to food, do you see a solution in the end? Do you see like is there like light at the end of this tunnel? Absolutely.
And so there's a political movement growing right now that's called body positivity. I'm not sure if you heard about that, but it's there's a group of people out there who are putting larger body in the forefront. And there's a good reason for that, is to create this level of body awareness and body acceptance and breaking the mold of putting this little woman on billboard and in magazine. That's really is only 2% of the population. So it's an extreme, but it's challenging the norm and the convention. And I believe that with time, and we're seeing that, if you've noticed for yourself, marketing towards women is more, quote, normal body.
Yeah.
So if we can affect the younger generation of little girls right now, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, and teach them that what they see in media is not reality, and that their worth is not attached to the way they look, then we will break diet culture for this generation growing up.
Yeah, worth, I think that's a huge word right there.
Huge. So if we can create that and work with that generation, then diet culture by itself would disappear.
Yeah.
For the rest of us that are stuck and was raised in that model, then it's a journey of self-discovery and healing that is in front of us.
Yeah, and do you feel like both with men and women that we have to hit rock bottom first before we bounce out more commonly?
Commonly, that's what's happening right now. Because people don't raise the red flag and they don't seek for alternative resources, because what I do, my message and other of my colleagues, is not on the forefront. So yes, people unfortunately right now have to hit rock bottom, but my mission is for it to not have to be, by putting this message forward and getting it out to people, to women and men out there, so they don't have to go rock bottom like I did.
Yeah. And it's interesting. So the clients that you're seeing that are finding you, that have been through their journey, which led them to you. And I asked this to the other person in nutrition that I just spoke to. Do you find that, well, since you're women, that most of the women that you're seeing, that whether they're overweight or whether they're underweight, whatever it may be, do you find that they're all on a lot of different medications for a lot of different things?
Absolutely. You hit the nails in the head. Anxiety and depression are the most
that was the answer
common.
I just got too. before.
anxiety and depression, because the this model of medicine that most people live in don't know what to do with it, and they're not trained and willing to go to the emotional place. So the solution is what I was prescribed: anxiety and antidepressant medication.
Yeah.
And then the older they get, then I see a series of other medication. PPI, like stomach acid. I will see inflammation, and I will see, even to people older, pain management medication because of the inflammation into the knee. And then it's just like the list grows with age typically.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you said it, because I'm trying to really connect. I'm do my best to connect people to people like yourself, because I see this over and over and again. And, I don't know how many countries there are that allow this, but, seeing, I don't watch much TV, but if you turn the TV on, every ad or every other ad is to tell you your body's dumb. It doesn't know how to heal itself, and you need this to fix it. And I know I step on some people's toes by saying that, but that's not the point, like I don't care. I want people to be healthy. I don't want them to have to rely on something like that. Listen, if there's an emergency, go to the emergency room. But it needs to be an emergency. If your stomach hurts because you ate something that was really bad, you don't have to go to the ER, because then you're gonna it's a downward spiral from there. But I see so much potential for people to actually take ownership and leadership in their own lives.
Absolutely.
We're so trained like sheep. It drives me nuts that people will just automatically rather take like an anti-anxiety, an antidepressant pill, which, if you do most research, they don't work anyway. They just get people.
But I want to say something to you. Sorry to interrupt.
No, go.
Those patients that present themselves with that, or client online, they don't know there's another option.
I know they don't. That's the crazy part. That's what blows my mind.
So I will give you a couple of examples. I cut my finger very severely preparing food, because I cook most of my food, and I chopped literally a tip of my finger. And I ended up and I could not salvage the piece. I got to the hospital with the piece on ice, and they couldn't do anything with it. Anyway, within the spread of time that I was there, I was proposed 5 medications.
Yeah.
I took none.
Yeah, and you're still alive, right?
I'm still alive.
Yes.
I treated myself. You would look at my finger right now. It's probably healed and recovered better than most of people that have been treated with medication. But would I have not known what I know, I would have been injected and taking 5 different medication.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why these messages, these podcasts, the websites, the video, all of this messaging is so important, because I don't want to say, I hate to use the word combat, but we're swimming upstream.
Absolutely.
But
the grassroots movement.
Yeah, it is. And the strong, like Sam, the strongest fish make it up, right? So our message needs to get there, and it will get there. Yeah. But where do you see in 10 years from now, what do you see happening?
I see the new generation being more aware and given a choice to opt in or opt out into the model of diet culture, dieting, and food obsession, which most don't have right now. So that in 10 years from now, there'll be an option that's most commonly aware, but most will still be choosing the diet model, because I think the 10-year time frame is not long enough to change corporation and the model of advertising and that whole diet $66 billion a year. Reality is it's going to take longer, but at least most people will know there's an option.
Okay. And do you think, it's just another thought, I'm just trying to think out loud here, that with messages like yours, that if they get into groups and organizations, that will spread easier, even into schools. Absolutely. Getting being taught in schools rather than that's why I have a podcast, so it's not a one-on-one, right? So we have one on many, and I think, I'd like to hope that you're wrong in a sense that 10 years is not long enough. And I'd also like to see that transition where, like you said, that men and women are able to say, you know what? I don't need that antidepressant. I don't need that anti-anxiety, whatever it may be, just because I know that there are other resources out there that can help me heal from the inside out. I don't, like you said, your finger healed itself. It wasn't a magic potion. Right.
Well, so give you a little experience. Part of my goal with this business, going beyond the food, is to create enough revenue to be able to start an education charity or organization to affect those little girls in 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. And in the meantime, to have enough revenue to be able to create that, I was seeking to support one that already exists.
Okay.
To this day, I've not been able to find one. So if anybody out there knows an organization that helped teach young girl about body image and worth, let me know.
Yeah.
Because I'm not able to find one. This is how far we are.
Yeah. And it's amazing if we, I hate to go like off in like different tangents here, but it's amazing that we live in such an educated, sophisticated, first world countries where we live right now. And it's like, holy cow, like, and I've been in some third world countries and done humanitarian work, and I've been in areas where you never would ever want to go. But some of these areas, the sense of community and the sense of food and love and all of these things is so awesome to be in. It's like you come back grateful that you have a window, right, and maybe air conditioning or heat. These people don't have any of that, but you go, holy cow, there's something that they have that we are missing. And like I was in, I think it was Haiti or Dominican Republic. I don't remember which one, but there was like they were boiling a cow's head, and I almost like threw up looking at this thing, and they're like it was like a delicacy, this, and they're cutting vegetables from like the ground. I'm like, all right, they have a better connection to this world than us.
And I bet you the women and the men weren't putting their self-worth along to the way they look.
No, I mean they were loved, and they were giving love like back and forth.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's pretty interesting, and it makes me think that there is potential, and hopefully someone will answer your call or your calling. Yes. If not, you got work to do.
That's my goal. So in this second career of mine, it's a mission-driven, purpose-driven enterprise. It is to do this work. So my goal is to, yes, grow my company, but grow my company to help this next generation so they don't end up where I was.
Yeah. And is this something you want to do in Canada? Is this like, where would you be starting this?
So right now,
start, I should say.
I would like to start it in the States because most of my community is coming from there, but it's something that I want to see expand all internationally to first world country, mainly Canada and the US at first, and then internationally, something that can be driven within the community that we can teach teacher. And then have that knowledge passed on within the school framework, so it's easily passed on to young children.
Yeah, that's important, and it's neat that you said, was if you think of the one industry that broke into schools, not a bad way, but got into schools is who? Dentists.
Yes.
Right? Every kid knows what a toothbrush is at a very young age. So what like I say this with chiropractic, like what if? We can have,
and it's the same thing with nutrition, right?
100%. Like lifestyle, I think it's just like the big picture of lifestyle. Like, what if that message is brought in?
And what I realize is that we cannot change people who have subconsciously been trained to engage with food and to engage with their body. It's hard, but if we can deal with people where their subconscious mind has not been formed yet or completely formed, then it's easy to teach. And then they carry that with them forever. Yeah,
exactly. Yahoo! I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. So, Stephanie, this is a really cool conversation. And where's the best place for people to find you?
My website. So it's www.stephaniedodier.com. And then when you enter the website, everything is resources is on that front page. So the first thing I would get you to do, if you're thinking that food relationship or body image could be something for you, do the quiz. Totally free, 10 question. It's a simple assessment, yes and no. And then that'll guide you towards other free resources. And then there's a podcast, Going Beyond the Food Show. It's a weekly me teaching different aspect of healing our relationship to food and body.
So good. So you have multiple ways to connect.
Yes.
All right. So everybody, you have that. And the link to her show notes, you can jump over to lifestylelocker.com/Stephanie Dodier. And if you can't spell that, look in the show notes, all right? Just scroll down a little bit and check the show notes. And you're going to love her. I mean, if you haven't connected with her yet, I think this has been a really great conversation. I love it.
Thank you. It was one of the best ones for me. It flowed naturally. Thank you.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. Well, we had a good bond here.
Yeah.
But so everybody, make sure you do connect, and if the message resonates with you, share it with someone else, because someone else needs this. There's a lot of someone else's in this world that need to hear all the messages that we share, and this is a really important one, because this can get down to the root cause of a lot of challenges that may show up later in health and life. So Stephanie, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. This was fantastic.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Hey everyone, I hope you did enjoy that episode with Stephanie. Isn't it great to have experts like her on, masters of their own universe? So make sure you head over to stephaniedodier.com and connect with her. We're going to have all the details in her show notes. She's giving you a free gift called the Food Freedom Score, and it will be in the show notes. All of those details will be in the show notes, how to connect with her on social as well. And make sure you connect with us. Again, that's facebook.com/lifestyle locker. And you can find her episode at lifestylelocker.com/Stephanie Dodier. And you'll see that in the show notes as well. Have an awesome day. All right, y'all. Peace out.